Scott, can you hear us? And can you make sure the podium is on? Can you do that from there, please? Thank you.
So Angela won't be here today? No. Yeah, Angela and
Scott and
Teresa. Okay.
But I invited them to any comments if they have. I didn't receive them.
All right, we'll get started. Welcome to the Mendocino Local Agency Formation Commission meeting of August 7th, 2017. First call of order. Roll call, please.
Present.
This Scott? Oh, there we go. Commissioner Gonzalez.
Present.
Commissioner Brown.
Here.
Commissioner Ward.
Here.
Commissioner Hamburg.
Here.
Commissioner Orth.
Here.
Commissioner McCowan.
Here.
Commissioner Rosenberg.
Here.
Apologies from Commissioners Ignacio, Silver, and McNerlin.
Okay.
And Mr. Chair, I'll just note that I will leave at 10:30 for a conference call I have to be on, but
Okay, thank you.
just an FYI.
Oh, and we have an executive committee meeting scheduled for 10:30 as well.
Okay. Public expression. Is there anybody in the audience that'd like to talk to us about anything not on the agenda?
And I'm also a citizen of Willits. I'm just here today to thank you for last year's Brown Act and ethics training, and I'm hoping that you are considering doing the same thing again this year. We've been talking about our upcoming election and also the formation of our new groundwater sustainability agency, and I wanted to just see if that was going to be available. So if you're going to be talking about that, just know that we're thinking about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
A quick question.
Yes.
Considering moving your election cycle pretty soon?
We have seen the flood of those districts doing that, and we have been considering it, and the board does want to do that.
Okay.
Timetable probably after this election.
Yeah, that's what we do. Thank
Great.
you.
Thanks, Tony.
Hello, Lee. Long time no see.
Good morning, LAFCO, Lee Howard, 3900 Parducci Road. I had a discussion with one of the boards over the weekend, and I sat down and I read your minutes of things, and there was one in particular that really got my attention. And I just come to you as unintended consequences sometimes bite us in the butt. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case in this one, but the simple fact that you people have decided to go ahead and send a letter over to the governor regarding the consolidation of 5 districts is a bit concerning to me. I didn't have any problem with LAFCO looking at that and looking at consolidation because it takes it through the process. And the process, as they say, the devil's in the detail. The simple fact is that the unintended consequences in this particular case may not get any details to them. The governor stamps it and sends it through, and you end up with a consolidated district that has a huge, huge unintended consequences that not many people realize. I'm surprised your executive officer didn't bring it to your attention to some degree. And that is the 5 districts that you're talking about. I don't have a problem except for one of them, Redwood Valley. If you let Redwood, or if the governor lets this slide through and Redwood Valley comes in as a consolidated district and it's, quote, annexed in as a total member of the flood control district and the areas and the boundaries of the flood control district, you will have a moratorium in the Ukiah Valley just like it is in Redwood Valley. Now that isn't my talk. I've had John Brown from the State Water Board, when he was there, say that. I've had Charles Rich, John O'Hagan, right on down the line, all of them said that that's why they haven't moved to do something with Redwood Valley. I'm not going to get into the rest of the unintended consequences of the $7 million debt and on and on and on. But I want to put it on the record so my kids and my grandkids, when this does happen, they can come back and look who is responsible for allowing this to go through because, quote, LAFCO was too lazy to pick up the ball and do the consolidation themselves. We'll pass it to the governor. It's easier that way. I thank you for your time. I hope you take a look at this because it isn't as easy as just consolidating. I'll give you one more point in this thing. The flood control district went to license for its 8,000 acre feet. That should be a red flag out there to you. That means that they're looking at using all their water. Redwood Valley is capable in their own written terms of taking 4,000 acre feet plus. When they take that, or try to take it because they're now annexed, it will be easy for somebody like a Mike Sweeney to come back and say, your water source is not adequate. And the gem of this county, as far as development, ongoing, all lays in the fact that they have the water. It was looked at and put 20 years out there so they could build, continue to build, and not be challenged on it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks. We'll make sure it's in the record. Any other comments about public expression? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to consent calendar. I'd like to pull 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I just have some really questions, but I'd just like to pull them.
Me too.
Okay, good. On the first one, number 2, approval of May 1st meetings. Did the changes get to the satisfaction of to you, Dan, and I think John? Okay.
I believe so.
And did you have a comment on that too?
Well, I do have some corrections.
Okay.
And if you go to those minutes, page 4 of 7, and it is the motion, it should read, and staff was directed to schedule a public hearing.
Okay.
And then if you go to page 5 of 7, and right under legislative letters of support from CALAFCO, that one paragraph, let's see, you would go to the second sentence, and after Brown asked for copies of the letter, comma, it should say, if approved, comma, and then in council person.
That was mine. It's not correct, is it?
No, it's assembly member.
Assembly member.
He used to be a councilman out of Healdsburg, but it's assembly member would, and so you strike the S at the end of the name as well.
Anything else on the May minutes? Can we move on to the June minutes? I had a question, just for clarity. On page 2 of 5, it talks about the May claims totaling $16,564.14. It says County of Mendocino County Council training. To me, that would read that we were training our county council. I think that was the training on our Brown. It just makes a little more, I don't want somebody to read that and think that we were training them. And then on page 3 of 5, it was a little confusing to me on item 6. EO presented the staff report and no comments received for the public hearing on the final budget. I think it was received for the future public hearing that we were going to have, because we hadn't had the public hearing at that time. That's all I had on the June minutes. Carrie?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And maybe this is better under commissioners' reports, but I'd like to see something standardized as far as agenda format. When you go to the minutes and go to correct them, if you don't have your previous agenda, sometimes you don't know if you're on 1 or 2 or which place is which. So it was very confusing for me, unless I had my former notes and what have you. So, for instance, I can see expressions here. It would be 1, call to order and roll call. Number 2 would be public expression. Number 3, for a format, a template, would be consent calendar with A, B, and C instead of 1, 2, 3, 4. I just find it very confusing to follow unless you're looking at the previous agenda to just go over the minutes. So that's my recommendation, that maybe the executive committee look at a standard template and format so that item 2, or was it 5, minutes of the May meeting, page 4 of 7, item 6. So if you don't have your agenda sitting in front of you, sometimes you don't know the numbering. So that's my only suggestion.
Good point. Beth?
I think that's wonderful, actually. We've been struggling with, when we add an item in, to renumber everything, and I think that would solve that problem. So
I think
thank
it
you.
would.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Any other comments on the June minutes? Okay, I'd like to move to the approval of the claims and financial report for June 2017. Everything was in order. I just wanted to, for clarity purposes, down at the bottom you have the operating account balance of our checking account at $61,000, in legal reserves of $90,000, or legal just reserves of $90,000. Well, actually, we ended up, just for the information for the commission, we ended up with $42,000 at the end of June. We were concerned about our cash balance. The balance as of June 30th did not include the bills for June, and we are on an accrual basis of accounting. So, and then I reduced it by the $1,500 that's on deposit with the city of Ukiah. And then there was an outstanding check of $77, I think. You haven't cashed your check until August. So basically we ended up with $42,575. So I just wanted to bring that up to let us know we were in pretty good shape. We anticipated having excess money, and that's the balance of it for as of June.
And just as a note on that, administratively, I include the last bank statement balance on this form.
Yes.
So thank you for that update.
And then on the July claims and financial report, I had a question why QuickBooks Online, there's a actual monthly fee of $50. I didn't think there was a fee for online access for QuickBooks. That adds up.
Yeah, it is a monthly fee, and it did go up. The first 6 months were an intro fee, I think, and then it went up to $50 a month. We can reassess the level of that we have of the QuickBooks,
Okay.
and take a look at that.
Carrie?
Is that all for financial?
No, I had
Okay.
one more for the July report. On the budget track and then the applications, you continue to add the city overlap area, Fort Bragg. That's $7,400. That has already been paid. So we're just down to Irish Beach owing us $610 and the city of Ukiah detachment of $1,500. And that's all I had on the claims. Then on the next one, did you?
You go ahead. I'm number 8.
Okay, the County Mendocino Information Service Contract Renewal. I read it. Did our attorney review it?
The attorney has not reviewed it. It's the same contract we had for last year.
Okay.
The language is all the same. It's just that the rates have changed.
So I didn't sign last year. Do you remember who signed last year's? I didn't know we had a contract with them.
We had it. We did have it signed. I remember we had some. I believe it.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to make sure. It's not. I read it. It seems fine. It's just that I was curious why that one went way up. It was the
9 of 10 per hour.
It was the information systems technician went from $38 to
Right, that was
$52 to
we've discussed that one before on the invoices, is that he changed status from, I believe, like contractor basically to employee, so it includes benefits and.
So
I'm not
with
really sure the
approval, I'll
structure.
sign the contract. I just wanted to make sure that it was, done by,
And if there are
attorney,
questions
but-
about last year's contract, I can run over and get a copy from in the office here.
Okay. And then the approval for the paling.
Mr. Chair,
Excuse
on
me.
that note, and it's a pretty minor thing, but on that contract, when you get to Exhibit B, because we have up front, it shows the increases in the rates. When you get to Exhibit B, it has penciled in notations that show the current rate.
Right.
And was that just added by someone making the comparison, and those won't be part of the signed contract? Because if they are, it's a little confusing.
Right.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I noticed that too, thanks. And then on the paling, just for purpose of clarity, again, it was a $75 increase, not $100. We paid $15.25 last year, and it went to $15,100. And that's it. Savings bank was fine. I didn't have a problem with that. Okay, number 8.
I would just like on number 8 to ask the question, if this is approved on the consent, when will the card be ready to be signed? Or is that,
I have a letter that's ready for
Okay.
signatures upon approval today,
so
and
you'll
then I
just
walk
let
that
us
over to
know
the bank. I can do
when
it
to go
today.
into
Yeah,
savings bank.
I can plan on doing it today if it's approved.
okay, I just worry about
Wasting
our
time.
chair, and I guess that would be it. That's
Out of town.
out of town, so to speak.
Yeah, that's not a problem. I can go there.
Actually, you live closer than I do.
Yeah.
You could actually
River
give him the
Valley.
letter. Today.
Okay,
Any
thank
other
you.
comments on items 2 through 8? I'll listen for a motion then.
I'll move approval with corrections to the minutes of May 1st.
I'll second with my compliments to both of you. Those was good catches.
Thank you for your indulgence. I very seldom go through that, I guess, without pulling
I'll
something.
second.
We have a second
I
already?
think Jim
Oh,
said
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Let's do a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Doble,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes?
Commissioner Hamburg,
Yes.
Commissioner Orth,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item 9, public workshop for Comptche Community Service District Sphere of Influence update. We'll go to Uma.
Question for clarification, was that just for item 2? Or
Yes,
was
it
that for
was.
the whole consent item,
Yeah.
consent calendar?
That was for all of it, I believe.
It was
Yes.
minutes.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Move
think-
approval of the
yeah, I think-
consent calendar with corrections to
Okay.
the minutes
Oh,
of
okay.
May
Thank you.
1st.
And then the corrections to the claims.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Thank you.
That is an addition.
Okay, we'll go on to Comptche. This is,
Better clear my ears.
this isn't a public hearing, is it?
This is a workshop item?
Workshop.
Thanks. Thank you. So this is our second fire district that we're bringing forward for workshop. This is the Comptche Community Services District Sphere of Influence update. I want to give thanks to the Comptche staff, Michael Schaefer in particular. He was helpful as we prepared this document. Comptche CSD is approximately 87 square miles in size, and it's centered around the community of Comptche. The Sphere of Influence was established in 1993 as a coterminous to its boundaries. The MSR was prepared and adopted in 2016. There are 2 updates to the MSR. Determination 7, the district noted that they had received $9,800 in Proposition 172 funding from the county. And in 2016, the Board of Supervisors authorized a 5-year audit cycle for the district. There is no request for a modification to the sphere by the district, and staff is recommending affirming the current SOI, which again is coterminous with the boundaries. The district has reviewed the administrative draft document and had no comments on it at this time. I'm happy to address any questions.
Any questions?
I do have one comment,
Go ahead.
unless someone from the district is here.
No.
Okay. And this happens to be on, oh golly, what would it be under? It's the table on 2.2-2, summary of MSR determinations.
Okay.
And if you go down to number 8, it states, if lack of revenue becomes an issue, the district would consider a new property assessment, blah, blah, blah. But it goes, however, options for a new special tax are not good because of recent state mandated fees for fire prevention. And I believe we've all received information on that through the cap and trade, that there's no longer an SRA fee, and what CAL FIRE was receiving will be from cap and trade revenue. So that's a new update, and what's happening over in Sacramento.
When does
and
that go into effect?
I think it's already been
Already in
approved.
effect?
Yeah.
Okay. John?
But I think the comment is also true, because that was.
Well,
the-
it's absolutely true, but it's no longer applies.
But it is a reason why they didn't go forward at the time. So, I mean, I don't know what change you want to make, because it's accurate as written.
Then
Add it.
because of your comment versus mine, we need to add that comment.
Yeah.
That the statement I just made, that SRA fees
Were repealed.
have been eliminated
Yeah.
or repealed, as I think eliminated, and will be covered for CAL FIRE through the cap and trade revenue. I don't know if that's precisely correct way to state it, but I could look it up and get you the verbiage if you'd like.
That would be great, and I think what we can do is add it as an update under that table.
Okay.
Which is where we've been putting the updates to the MSR determinations.
Carol?
I think a date of action.
Carol?
I think a date of action when that was repeal happened would be good.
Yes. Kevin?
Thank you.
Sorry, Kevin and Dan.
On the map, I made this comment in the past, but I think we should show where adjoining districts touch the boundary of the sphere of influence. And so in this particular case, we would have Mendocino Fire Protection District, Albion, and Anderson Valley CSD.
Dan and John?
And the question, oh,
Go ahead, Dan was next.
Yeah, just going back to that table, number 8, that you were just discussing. I'm not sure, given the change from the SRA to the cap and trade payment, why that last sentence under 8 is still germane. So what were you
John.
suggesting to do with that?
She was gonna add her comment. John was saying that it was accurate as stated at the time.
You mean it was accurate at the time the report was written,
Right.
so it's the
It's
snapshot?
still accurate. I mean,
It's still accurate.
it's
yeah.
reporting what happened in the past, and I think Supervisor Brown is saying just simply update it to reflect that that fee no longer applies.
And adding it to item number 8.
And adding that
Don't-
statement?
Yeah,
to
just leave
number
what's
8?
there, but add another statement.
As an update.
As an update.
And the update would be that the SRA fee has been eliminated.
Yeah, and there's a cap and trade
So
revenue.
doesn't that change the financial ability of the agency to provide services by a new property assessment ballot measure?
Does that change?
Yes, that's all. That doesn't make sense. I'm just saying, why is that?
Well, that'd be a discussion that they would have. I
yeah,
mean,
it would be, the fire departments didn't want to compete because the SRA
Exactly.
was so expensive per parcel
Right.
that the state was charging,
Right.
and they felt why go through an election
Right.
when people are already paying out this amount?
Right, but wouldn't options for a new assessment be somewhat better now because the SRA is
Correct.
eliminated?
Yes.
So that's why I don't understand why that sentence stays in there. It seems like to be up to date, that fee is eliminated, so that option becomes more of a possibility.
Can
And I agreed with you, but I wanted to reach a compromise with Commissioner McCowan.
how about, you were gonna suggest some language to
Well-
our EO?
I would suggest that based on the discussion, staff is capable of capturing all of the comments and coming back with revised language.
Okay, at the public hearing.
Is that okay, Uma?
Yeah, we can do that. I just wanted to clarify that the approach we've taken is not to go in and wordsmith or change the MSR determinations from 2016, is to present them in the document, and then under that table, you'll see on page 1-4, I think it's PDF 50, where we are having, including updates to the determinations that way. If the commission would like to see that differently, what we tried to do was show the snapshot in time from the MSR rather than go in and update the whole MSR and get into that. Then we just noted the MSR updates after the table.
John?
Well, based on that, maybe it would be appropriate to simply have an asterisk and then at the bottom a footnote with the updated information. Because we just talked about the value of having a standard template.
Yeah.
And so with the explanation, these are the determinations in the MSR.
Will that satisfy it?
But can we start by saying asterisk legislative change and then mention the bill and the date of passage and then the note as to what changed? Just a quick, that fee eliminated, you know, I think that way in future as legislation makes changes and we face this and we have more fire districts to go through, I think we'll be having the same discussion otherwise.
Mm-hmm. That's
Okay.
fine with me.
Well, I like the suggestion of wordsmithing. We'll leave it up to you. We'll bring it back and we can always talk about it again.
Okay.
And just one other thing, Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
and this isn't really asking for a change in text, but a lot of these small rural fire districts have additional water storage tanks within their jurisdiction, and it gives them the ability to, obviously, to fight fires in areas where they can't get tenders or they can't take enough water to the site. And you know, I'm glad that that's noted in this MSR, in this update, because I think it's a very important issue. And you know, as I drive around my district, I see a lot of these tanks that are connected to various fire districts, but the fact that Comptche has not been able to achieve that is significant.
Okay, good. Regarding yours, Kevin, I think we talked about those maps, and I thought when we got the whole thing done, they were going to have the maps of all the districts tied together to see if there was any areas that were not included.
Well, we do have that map, so I think we should be easy to show that.
Okay, so you want to see it on each one of these?
We have that map, so it should be easy to turn the layer on.
Okay. Is that something we could do for future?
Sure, we can easily add that. Yes.
Okay, good. Financial information, no updates?
Because they went on the 5-year audit cycle, there was no current audit past what's here available.
So are they doing well?
They are managing to stay stable where they are.
What was that, Emma?
They're managing to stay stable where they've been, so they're about current where they are, and as
They're
it
not
gets
going
noted
away.
in the, it's noted in the MSR that it is difficult and it's a struggle for them financially, but they are managing.
Okay.
One thing, Mr. Chairman, one thing I didn't see in their revenues was their fundraising, which they're very good at.
Hmm.
Is there a reason why that's not? I think they raise about $20,000 a year in their fundraising events.
Those barbecues and
Well,
car
especially their
washes.
Father's Day event is one of the biggest events in the county next to the salmon barbecue.
John, you have an additional comment?
I do. So in sphere of influence, the second paragraph, it discusses how there's some areas in the southern part of the district that are difficult to serve. I think in some cases you kind of have to drive out of the district and back into it in order to serve. And some of those are probably more readily accessible by Albion or Anderson Valley. And we also see the district's SOI as coterminous with the district boundary. But then a kind of a related issue, when you go to page, well, it says 1-4, then present and planned land uses in the area. The district's boundary area is approximately 87 square miles with a service area of approximately 100 square miles. So, you know, there's a couple of issues there. The first one being these areas that are difficult for the district to serve. Maybe a recommendation could be that the next MSR take a look at that issue, and would some of those issues be better served by one of the other districts? And then secondly, the area that is outside the district and outside the SOI, but is part of the service area, you know, that maybe should be highlighted in the map that Kevin is suggesting would at least show those contiguous areas that aren't in any district, but someone winds up responding. And of course, that's just an ongoing issue. So I don't know that we need to hash it out for each of these districts, but you know, I think these are all going to wind up being compiled into one document. So I think we could highlight that issue of the out of area service areas, out of district service areas, could certainly be highlighted in the intro to the overall report. But again, my main thing here is to recommend that the next SRI, next MSR, look at whether those areas that are difficult to serve would be better served by another district. Because I think that's part of the reason why we're doing the MSRs. Right. Who's better able to provide the service most efficiently and cost effectively.
Just for a comment though, how would you, would that be through annexation?
Well, ultimately, I imagine it'd be a detachment, annexation, reorganization. So that's why we have our executive director.
But that would cost them money to do that.
It'd cost somebody money, but.
Yeah, okay.
Seems a little crazy.
Any more comments on the?
Well, on the finances, even though this is the last audited report, particularly if we've gone to a 5-year audit cycle, it seems like it'd be more meaningful to have more recent, although not audited numbers, rather than, you know, ancient history. And then also moving forward, in addition to the other government funds, I would suggest when those start showing up on the financial reports that the county contribution of Proposition 172 be shown as a separate line item, because that is discretionary on the part of the county, and the county, if there were an economic downturn, potentially those funds could be at risk. So I think it's worth showing a separate breakout for those, but that probably won't apply for a cycle or so. And then again, back to page 1 of 4, present and planned land uses, there is a reference to service area, and so by what criteria is that service area defined? And I think that may be with the way things are dispatched based on, I assume, you know, CAL FIRE takes a look at their map and says out of the district, but they're the closest. But there could be a sentence explaining how service area is determined. That's it.
Well, you haven't let me down. Thank you for reading those things and coming up with comments. Jerry, and then
Actually,
Tony.
I'll defer to Tony because I think he may be.
I'd like to look at deferred determinations. We need to mention the formation of the Mendocino Fire Association. District Fire Association and the fact that it is working to identify additional revenue sources for fire services of Mendocino County.
Was that what you wanted to comment on?
No, actually, it was along the same lines of what John was talking about, the agreements, because I mean, obviously, it's not up to LAFCO to, I guess, in my opinion, it's up to LAFCO to jostle everybody to cooperate on some of these out-of-area agreements, but to codify that somehow, because I know that it's a patchwork all over the county of these places that aren't inaccessible, and either they're handshake agreements or formal agreements in some cases of the districts, so that was the only thing I wanted to add.
Carrie?
Thank you. And my history of all of this is when LAFCO, I don't know how many years ago, but probably 30, when they did the maps, Potter Valley had an area in Willits that they had to cover. And the amount of money to do the detachment, because it didn't make sense for them, and go through that process because LAFCO had made the error in their mapping, was unbelievable. So I don't know, alternate Commissioner McCown's made some good points, but the original mappings were done by LAFCO, and they said these are the areas you serve.
Well, it will be an issue, I think, one day when we look at the total map and see areas that are not served, and we'll make a determination what we want to do about it.
Right,
you know?
and it's like Potter Valley. When they have to go to the Lake County border and maybe even beyond in some of the areas when there's emergency call out there, you know, it could be a good hour and a half on some of those rustic roads, forest roads to get out there.
I should mention that the District Association recently met with the Office of Emergency Management, which is a county office. We are looking at coordinating with them in the future as to their being the agency that does the mutual aid call-outs to the districts through the emergency management. And because they have a coordinating role over fire districts, we're looking to up that relationship and address some of these issues over time with studies, including looking at the 3 surrounding counties that have co-joined their fire districts in different ways. So there are 3 different entities we can study to see which is working and which is not. So these are future things I just want to make the commission aware of. It's not just LAFCO that needs to work on these issues.
Great.
Well, we have a CALAFCO coming up. Maybe we could bring that up and see if other counties have that same issue and how they deal with it as well. Because I'm sure we're not unique.
Probably not.
Regarding the financials that John brought up, this 5-year review, we've got some districts that are not doing too well. In 5 years, you know, trying to make a decision whether they can serve or not serve concerns me, because 1 year they could go under and we won't know about it 4 years later. Yes.
What they are required to do is a financial review every year.
Financial review.
And then an audit, whether it's every 2 years or there's the every 5 years.
So we could at least see some kind of unaudited type
exactly.
financials. Okay.
And those financial reviews are turned in to the state controller, are supposed to be.
So we can get those.
Yeah.
So in this case, though, Comptche's almost 3 years behind, so.
But maybe they have the financial reviews, just not the audit.
Yeah.
So
It'd be
the
nice if they
question
do
needs
have
to
any.
be asked.
See if they have any. I mean, it was brought up with their fundraising, but maybe they could find out what their most current financials are.
Sure, we can do that. We have focused on the audits in the past, but we will look into the financial reviews. And we can also, most of the budgets don't include a line for the
fundraising.
For the fundraising, but I've noticed that some do track that, so we can request that information.
Okay, any more comments on the workshop for Comptche? I think you've got enough to, we'll be pulling this back for public hearing when?
We were planning to wait till we had a group of them together
Group of them,
before we
okay.
did a public hearing. Would you like to see a second draft of this document since there were a number of changes, or just wait until?
I'm okay waiting. Anybody else have concerns?
Okay.
Yeah, could I just ask Uma a question?
Sure.
Uma, was this draft reviewed by the 3 members of the CSD
Yes,
who are listed here?
it was.
Okay, and they were good with it?
Yes, they were fine with it, and pretty much as long as their SOI remained the same, they were comfortable.
Okay, thank you.
You just might ask them, though, if they have to go out of their district to go to the other part of their district, how they really deal with that and what their comments would be on something like that. Well, how do they feel about doing those kinds of things? Just for information only, to sort of answer what John brought up. I'd be curious what they think of it. John?
And I don't know if there was general agreement that that issue ought to be covered in the next MSR. It ought to at least be discussed.
I hope that we can have some kind of institutional knowledge put away in our file cabinet, so when these things come up, these are discussions we had in 2017, and bring it back for us to review. Sometimes we lose all that, but yeah, I think it would be a great idea. And there's lots of things we talk about that needs to be talked about the next go-around, and sometimes we lose that.
And it doesn't mandate any particular action, but it's just
Brings it back to the forefront.
Get the issue out there
Yeah.
and better understand it.
Right.
Is there a way on the, all of these to put something like notes that, like a tickler that says that whoever's sitting in here or there in 5 years or 3 years knows there's a note file that goes with it or something?
Well, we've gone through 3 EOs. It's
Yeah, that's what I
tough
mean.
when, hopefully Uma will stay around for a while and remember this
And
stuff.
5 years from now, she's going to be sitting there, let's hope.
Because I'm still waiting for the opinion on the tribal lands in Covelo that our attorney was looking at, and how we would deal with those kinds of things. And those things you forget about, especially if you get new commissioners and stuff. And it's really important what John brings up, I think, and that we can bring this back at the time it needs to be brought up.
We have a similar situation between the 3 fire districts in the north part of the county, Piercy, Leggett Valley, and Long Valley, where there are holes in the service area along the 101 corridor. We have prepared a map and asked the 3 districts to work together on those sphere of influence, on those holes between the spheres. So we'll be hopefully be bringing some suggestions forward on that one when we get to that.
Well, that's the time to do it before we get to the workshop, is what they're thinking that they're wanting to do, so that we could talk about it here as well.
We could do that if you would like to, like staff to look into that. We could probably pull some folks together from Anderson Valley and Albion Little River and look at those holes.
Because of that discussion, we should also have districts reference any other companies, fire companies that they're associating with. There's Bell Springs, there's Ridgewood. These are smaller companies that are beginning to receive support from other districts to fill some of those response holes. So it's just another complication that's been added in recently.
Thank you. That does bring up some questions that have been posed by Mr. McMillan with the Elk CSD regarding LAFCO and volunteer fire companies and that recognition piece. So that's definitely something that maybe we can discuss at the executive committee level and then bring forward.
Mm-hmm. Well, we brought up a lot of things to discuss, so thanks. Hopefully you got it all, and we'll talk about it at the public hearing. Okay, let's move on to item 10, the public workshop for the City of Fort Bragg Municipal Service Review and Sphere of Influence.
Thank you. So we do have a workshop draft, a municipal service review, and sphere of influence update for the city of Fort Bragg. This, I believe, is LAFCO's second round MSR.
Hooray.
Yeah, I want to thank Linda Ruffins, the city manager, Marie Jones, who is the community development director, and we also have Scott Perkins with the community development department here today to help answer any questions. This municipal service review and sphere of influence update covers both the city of Fort Bragg and the Municipal Improvement District 1, which is a dependent special district that provides wastewater to the city and the immediate community. The last MSR SOI was adopted in 2008, and the city provides general government services, finance, community development services, law enforcement, public works, parks, water, and wastewater through the dependent district. The city does collaborate with the Fort Bragg Rural Fire Protection District for fire services within the city. We have updated MSR determinations, which start on PDF page 101. And the city staff has reviewed this document and provided input, which has been incorporated into the document. And the staff is recommending affirming the SOI for the city and the Municipal Improvement District, and the city staff is comfortable with that. And I'm happy to answer any specific questions.
Okay, when I think of an MSR, this is what I think of. This is a very good one. Very good. Any questions? Any questions for Scott? John?
Well, one that I have, and it's a little bit similar in a way to the last one. Why should there be overlap between the sphere of the city and the sphere of the district? Because the Municipal Improvement District is essentially a creature of the city, and it's essentially operated by the city. It's governed by the city council, and so whatever land is within their sphere, you would think would be within the sphere of the city, and also whatever land is served by the district, you think would at least be within the sphere of the district. But there are some areas to the southeast of the district that appear to be served. They're in that gray area, but they're not included within the SOI, or they appear not to be included. So, I think, again, we should be asking the city and the district, why don't you want all of the areas served by the district to be within the SOI?
Is that a question for Uma?
Yeah, that'd be a question I think, to go back to the city and the district. And is there any reason not to include those areas served by the district?
We may have someone that could address it.
Yes.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Scott Perkins. Thank you for the introduction with the City of Fort Bragg. I'll do my best to answer whatever questions you have, but whatever I can't answer, I'll make note of and work with staff between the workshop and the public hearing to get that answered. As far as the question that was posed here about the difference or discrepancies between the sphere of influence and the areas that are served, I can talk to our Public Works Director. There's a lot of history between the different areas of the city that overlap or do not, and if there's specific areas or if you just like explanations of the 3 different boundaries, I can provide that to staff after the workshop.
Well, it's all shown on the map, so I think it'd be good to have an explanation of why certain areas are not included within the SOI.
Any other questions for Uma or Scott?
No, go ahead.
Tony?
Yes, in the municipal service area, you have the Harbor District. Correct. And it seems to be the stepchild, it's the forgotten stepchild. Does Fort Bragg have any improvement plans for the Harbor District at this time?
At this time, no. There are services provided, water and sewer, within the harbor. The city is part of the Harbor District Commission with members on that commission. And right now, whether it be the Harbor Commission, the county, or the city, there's no push at this moment to extend services into the harbor.
And you have made clear references to the lack of such infrastructure to support additional services within the harbor district. I'm thinking of offshore oil development and the fact that that is the key component of why Mendocino County was against offshore oil in the sense of infrastructure demand. And Fort Bragg has no plans to increase infrastructure that would support such increase in demand in the harbor district. Have you made that statement clear?
At this time, correct. There's no plans or pushes to improve or expand infrastructure in the harbor.
Okay. Just want that on the record.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
I
John?
have some comments. They're not questions, but one thing that kind of stands out is that quite a bit of the verbiage, or some of the verbiage, basically is written from the position of the city of Fort Bragg, and I think it was essentially lifted from documents, which is fine as to factual information, but and the proof of my statement is that on page 2-13, the last sentence of the fourth full paragraph, so a little more than halfway down the page. Thus, it is vitally important that the city continue its efforts to support local businesses and grow our local economy. So obviously that wasn't written by our staff. Grow our local economy was written by city staff. And so the issue is we're putting in a lot of characterizations of what they're doing that maybe go beyond simply a factual examination. And the first thing that caught my eye on that was on page 2 of 2, bottom paragraph. The city is dedicated to a transparent process and offers multiple ways to keep the citizens informed. That's a great statement, but for the purposes of the MSR, it's completely accurate if it simply says the city offers multiple ways to keep their citizens informed. Adding is dedicated to a transparent process is putting in value statements that, you know, maybe aren't the most appropriate. So I think we ought to be careful in incorporating wholesale comments made by the entity being reviewed instead of just extracting the factual information.
That's what we get for having people actually help us with these MSRs.
Well, but you have to be careful not to let them write the MSR.
Okay. So does the commission wish to have that language changed?
Well, I think it's something for staff to maybe review and just give a quick read through, and some of the stuff that really isn't germane could just be dropped and we'd still have all the same factual info.
So on the other one, if we took out our citizens and just said the citizens of Fort Bragg are be better served.
Well, but that's endemic of where the issue came from.
Okay.
You know, that was as an example. I have one other substantive comment. I think instead of having scattered references to the capital projects, because we have multiple areas where we discuss the capital improvements, which I'm glad that we are.
What page are you on?
Well, I think it starts on page 2 of 16 at the last couple of paragraphs at the top, so paragraphs 3 and 4 maybe, or well, that whole page. It discusses the capital improvement program, and it makes references to it. And the last paragraph in that section, CIP is comprised of 33 projects. Why not simply, and then as you go through the document, for each issue area, for water, for wastewater, for public works, it generally says projects included in the CIP for the next 5 years are, and then it will list 2, 3, 4, or 5. why not list them all in one table, listing all 33, and break them out by the subject area? So water, wastewater, public works. And I think that would be the most accessible way to present that information. And it is understood that it's a planning document. It's not something that's locked in or
Right.
funds are allocated, but to me, that'd be the best way to get the info.
Okay, that's a good point. I like that. Uma, is that going to be a problem?
No, we can do that for sure.
Okay.
I did want to just, I agree with Commissioner McCowan regarding the language and the verbiage that looks like the city wrote it. There was some input provided by the city, and we will carefully go through the whole document and make sure that we have removed unnecessary verbiage.
Very good. Any other comments? Thank you, Scott.
Thank you. And just to clarify, I'll get you guys information about the history and how we got to the boundaries that we have, and that's what you need, more information from the city. Is that right?
Thank you very much.
Okay, you got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a safe trip back. All right, we'll move on to item 11. The draft legislative policy. This is from the Policy and Procedure Committee on July 21st met, correct? And for the record, that's Dan, Teresa, and Tony. Thank you, guys.
So the Policies and Procedures met on the 31st and discussed this proposed policy, and this came from direction from the Commission during a regular meeting to look at a way for staff and the Commission to respond to requests for legislative support or opposition letters. The committee met and discussed the draft policy that's included in your packet on PDF page 113. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those. This essentially provides for the chair to work with executive officer regarding letters, and if there is question, to bring it to the vice chair in the absence of the chair, and then also to the executive committee for collaboration on that before sending it out, and then would be ratification at the next commission meeting.
I think it's already been done once. I signed the letter for the AB 1330 or something like that, so, but I don't have a problem with it. Carrie?
I just have corrections to the letter on SB 448, and it is dated August 7th, so I'm assuming we're going to have action for approval or to take action on it.
Correct.
So when you get to the third sentence in the first paragraph, it says, "We are pleased to support." To should be added. And then at the bottom with the CCs, we need to include Senator McGuire and Wood, Assemblymember Wood. And that would be the same for the other letter on AB 361. To include both of them, although I do believe that
That's been sent, I think.
Senator, oh, okay, says July 14th. But we should include our own elected officials, even though on that particular one, Senate Governance and Finance Committee, I do believe Senator McGuire chairs that. So he received it anyway, but it's always good to make sure we keep them informed when we do take positions.
So we're still on 11. The two letters are under 12.
Yeah.
Business
Oh,
for
sorry.
12. That's okay. Do we want to, we need approval on the policy and procedure language, the new?
I'd like to move approval.
I'll say.
Okay. Any discussion, further discussion? John?
Well, I'm just wondering, we talk about the extra work we create for staff. Do we really want to create a legislative platform annually, or rather than have these, letters that might be sent have to be in conformance to the legislative platform, maybe leave it to the judgment of our executive director and our chair and/or vice chair.
But it does say the P&P committee continues to develop the legislative platform.
What we're doing is reviewing the CALAFCO platform, and just to see if there anything that our chair wants to redline out of that. Any questions? Also, we note that our lawyer for LAFCO spends a lot of time on legislative matters, so clearly staff would give a call, make sure that we're in line with that as well. So we're just reviewing that CALAFCO legislative agenda, and we would adopting that each year as an ongoing way to adopt a legislative agenda for this LAFCO.
Okay.
Okay.
Makes
We're
it a
not
lot easier,
creating
doesn't
something.
it?
So,
All right, good.
And I would just like to suggest, and I was wrong on that very bottom, I thought they were developing the legislative platform, but had that little word at the end.
Adopt.
But anything that commissioners have that they may discussed with their respective bodies, if we have a timeline when we adopt the legislative platform, which probably should be December of each year, at least a review, they can make recommendations, because some of us, if we're involved at CALAFCO annual meeting, some may not be, so any input, and then just have some deadlines on it that the commission is aware of, so input can go back and forth.
Okay, does this require?
Mr. Chairman, are you going to look for a motion that we adopt this?
We have a motion
We
and
have
a
a motion.
second on the floor now.
Okay.
I was just wondering if it's a roll call or, no, it doesn't have to be a roll call.
The only thing I wanted to mention is that it says the P&P committee continues to develop the legislative platform policy. I'm not sure what our next step is. I mean, I think we've pretty much developed it and we're ready to vote on it.
The chair was looking at doing some red lines on the CALAFCO legislative platform, and then we were going to discuss it at the next Policies and Procedures meeting.
Okay, but that's not really developing the policy. The policy is that we take the CALAFCO legislative platform on a yearly basis and that we work with that to adapt it to Mendocino LAFCO. So that's not really
Correct.
a policy consideration. It seems to me that the policy is 1 through 5.
And that's what we're voting on, I believe.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
John?
Well, and I agree with Commissioner Hamburg's comments. That's not actually what it says here, but so I think the motion would be revised in line with the comments, because I think we are adopting the policy, and then the P&P committee will continue, as was said. The other thing I wanted to say is both of these letters are very well written. So great job. I assume staff may have put those together, or no?
That's the next item.
Yeah,
Anyway, they're well done. So.
So, can you read the motion again for us, so we know what we're voting on?
So this was an error on staff's part. The motion should be, this one came from the Policies and Procedures Committee agenda packet. So it should be a motion to approve this legislative policy here.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none? Fine. We've had some changes with the benefit of our policy and procedures. Maybe we could get some updated policies and procedures one day, maybe at the end of the year or something. We've made a few changes, and I'm not that I get confused, it'd just be nice to have something more current on my desk if we ever have to go through it. Yes.
Every time we get ready to finalize and publish it, another policy change comes up, and we're like, well, if we just hold on a little bit longer. So hopefully once we get this legislative one done, then within the next couple months we'll have it.
And we do have another matter that's before P&P right now.
I believe we do. We're developing one more,
We're
yeah.
going to continue to work on. Hopefully we'll bring that back next meeting.
I think so, yes. And Commissioner Hamburg, that was my misunderstanding on the policy. I thought the legislative platform was a a policy that, so that the terminology was my misunderstanding. So thank you for that.
Yep.
Can we take a 5-minute short break, please? We'll come back and we'll finish this up.
What is the thing?
Here we go, item number 12.
And he's really very sweet.
Okay, we're on.
CALAFCO Business and Legislative Report. How about we'll start with CALAFCO letter of support request for SB 448. And Carrie had a couple of comments on that letter. Is there any more discussion on that letter?
So the request today is for the commission to give us feedback on whether they would like this letter sent.
I think it's important. And especially with the fact that they listened to CALAFCO's amendments.
So this goes to Senator Bob Wiskowski. What is the letter? It's in support of SB 448, but what is that? What's the process after that?
I'm not
I mean,
sure.
is every LAFCO in the state sending the same similar letter?
So these letters are sent to us by our CALAFCO executive director, requesting each LAFCO to consider supporting, sending in letters of support for this. So that's this one, SB 448 letter, and also the one that was sent earlier in June, which is the AB 1361 letter. So that's where these come from. They come down as requests from CALAFCO.
Carrie?
I'd just like to suggest at the very last sentence, in the last paragraph, we are pleased to support SB 448, and I would put in its current form, because sometimes you never know.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen a lot happen in the Capitol.
That's for sure.
I'll move that we ratify the letter. Is that the way we would do it? Because our future process will be sort of ratifying these letters?
Are we going to add the suggestion made by Commissioner Brown regarding our local representatives to both of these letters?
Yeah.
And then re-sign the one that?
Well, the second letter's already been sent.
Okay.
And that one we did include, we received that feedback, and we did include the local representatives on that one.
Great.
And actually, on that particular one, that's what happened in Hopland. I don't ever remember LAFCO being a part of that process. And so I think it's really
That's
important
true.
that we weighed in.
Yeah.
So that's a good point. These letters are probably boilerplate letters provided by CALAFCO.
Yes.
But I like the idea that we keep that, what Carrie brought up, that at its present form, because these things change. This one's already changed, 448.
Okay.
Originally, we were opposed to it, now we're not. Okay.
So for clarification, it would be commission approval on the first letter for 448 and ratification on the second letter for AB 1361.
I'll remove my motion to ratify the first one.
So
And
do we need,
motion to approve as amended.
do we have a second?
Second?
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, so ordered. Okay, we'll go on to CALAFCO conference down in San Diego. Who's all going? And what is our budget?
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that as well. But I'm willing to go. I checked my calendar. I went to Ontario when no one else was going to go.
You did.
Because we
You
needed
did.
to vote and have someone present, and I forget all the ins and outs of that. But I'm cleared to go. And I think it's important that we get it in. And I actually took the place of Commissioner Doble when it ended up, he had a conflict when it was over in Sacramento. And it's not that I need to go every time, but I do think it's important to have at least one commissioner that can carry the vote and be a part of the conversation, because we will be looking at the northern region, two new board members, and it's a county member and a district member coming up. I don't know, I just think it's important that we get that registration in. And maybe those absent today don't know what their feelings are, but maybe a email to them saying, if you'd like to go, we need to do this. And I'm also very interested in the mobile workshop, and usually those have limited seating. So I think it's important to do what they suggested, register now to secure your seat.
All right, so Carrie's in. Kevin?
I'd like to express interest as well. I have not attended one of these yet, and I feel like I should.
Okay, Kevin? Jerry?
I'm kind of interested, but I'm kind of a junior guy too, so.
Well, I'm happy to step back.
How many?
No, I think it's important
Yeah, I
you
think
go, Carrie.
it's important you go.
Especially you had to go to Ontario.
I just don't know what the
Pay
process
back.
says, whether how many go or not go.
Well, we have 4,000 in our budget. Carol?
I went for 2, and I felt, as a new member of LAFCO, going to the first 2 years that I was on the board was very, very helpful. I don't feel that I need to go again this year, but I think we gave, last year we gave Uma some support so that she could go, and I think going to the legislative part and actually having a presence there and talking to the other people from the northern part of the state is really important. And it was, the first year I went, it was extremely, it was a wonderful education.
Yes.
So I would certainly recommend it. You don't have to go every year, but I really think new members should go along with an experienced member and to represent us.
Okay.
I'm up for election in November, so I won't be going anywhere, so see whether I'm still here or not.
Are you going to rerun?
It's a 5-year term. It will be my last I'll run for.
Dan,
and then I'll
you have-
retire at
Dan, you have an interest in
7-0.
going?
Not really.
Okay. John, you have an
You'll
interest
be
in going?
younger than me.
You know, I was toying with that idea. I've never gone, but.
Well, I think you should.
Well,
I think as Carol just says, there's a wealth of information with it. You get to meet other commissioners. They have the same problems we have. We come up with some pretty good ideas.
I'm not disputing the value. It's just, it's pretty hard to pry me out of Mendocino. It could happen, so I would.
And Supervisor
contact.
Brown knows that for a fact.
And it looks as though they're offering a nicely reduced rate for booking in
for the
advance.
hotel,
For the
yeah.
hotel.
125 is cheap.
It's pretty cheap, yeah.
So if I do decide I want to go, contact staff before the end of the month.
Yes.
It probably should be before that, if you want to
Get on the
participate in that mobile workshop, which looks extremely interesting. And because of work that I did for the feasibility study on raising Coyote Valley Dam and looking at alternatives to that, I just think that mobile workshop, if you're going, you got to get a seat.
Uma, do you have some comments?
I just wanted to say that we have 3,000 in the conference budget, so that's for about 6 folks, 6 commissioners.
Yeah, I thought about it'd be 5 or 6 would be do it. And we've had 5 or 6 go in the past.
We have the Napa one, I think almost the entire
Yeah.
commission went.
John, weren't you at Napa?
No?
No?
Like I told you, it's
It
hard to
was-
get
maybe it
out
was-
of.
Yeah.
Because we were really fighting for our wine.
Yeah, we had a big crowd.
I don't see the wine thing. Hopefully they're having that again.
They do that every year.
I think it's pretty neat thing.
We won last year.
Yeah.
Thanks to Angela.
So
Well, anyone flying out of Santa Rosa can take a free case of wine.
So I hear 1, 2, 3. There's 5 of us potentially interested, and that includes you, John. So let the staff know. I know you got to go. I have an interest, but I wanted to wait till I wanted the first year people to, second year people to make sure they go. Jerry, I think you should go.
I mean, I'm just looking, honestly, I feel like such a neophyte when it comes to LAFCO matters. So in fact, anything I can
Well,
do.
you know, and what conflicts with, for the new people, what conflicts is the mobile workshop, because they have that LAFCO 101.
Which is excellent.
Which is excellent. And I went to that when I went to Ontario, and I may have gone to it in Napa, just can't remember. But it's 10 a.m. to noon, so it'd take you out of the workshop. But certainly that tour is something probably you'll never get in your lifetime.
Nothing better than San Diego in October, John. Okay, so I think we have enough to cover the people that are interested. Dan said no, Tony said probably no. Carol?
I think, having gone twice, I think I've used up my credibility, maybe again.
Has anyone talked to Teresa about it, or Angela?
I didn't.
Angela seems to like to go because she brings the wine.
Yeah.
But I don't know how about getting the wine to see.
Well, I have an in on Masood as well, so I could always bring it if she doesn't.
You fly out of Santa Rosa Airport, you get to take a free case of wine.
Well,
They don't say it has to be Sonoma wine.
Okay, well, let
I don't know.
Beth
I will
know.
contact the three non-attending members today.
Last
Scott,
year,
Angela, Teresa.
we hardly spent anything, so that's one of the reasons we're over, the cash we have. But I think it's really important if people want to go, they go, because there is a lot of wealth of information.
Well, it was really, being there with Uma last year was really important to me and Angela, and being there the year before with Ms. Brown was really, really an education.
They have these little workshops, they go into Southern District and Northern Districts, and so we get to sit in a room with people like Yuba County and Sutter County, and then you hear the same type of problems that they're having that we're having, and that makes you feel a little bit better. And they've got some good ideas too, how they developed that.
It was also useful, our lawyer, did a
Scott
workshop.
Brown.
Scott Brown did a workshop, and it was really interesting to see him in action and to hear what he has to say.
Yeah.
And it was just an opportunity to really talk to the folks from Humboldt County. That was really, really useful concerning marijuana and such, and I felt that was a really good education.
Okay, so let Beth know. CALAFCO Board of Director nominations due in September. Is that something that we need to do today? Is it something we do at CALAFCO? I know we'll vote on them at CALAFCO. Do we want any particular, especially supervisors that know a lot of these nominations? They may be other supervisors. Did you go through the list?
I did, and actually, the gentleman from Yuba, Northern, he's a city rep, and he's very, very good. He's been very active at CALAFCO. Then we do have a vacant seat, so who knows about that. And then, yes, I do know Supervisor Conley from Butte County, and his seat is up. And there's some others that I know as well, other county supervisors like John Leopold from Santa Cruz.
John Leopold's good. I've
Yes,
talked with him
excellent.
before. So are we, Emma, supposed to provide some nominations today?
So the deadline for the nominations is September 25th, so we could.
Okay, so we have another meeting.
We do have another meeting,
Okay.
so we can wait on that.
So I would suggest, commissioners, if you have some, maybe write them down and we'll nominate next meeting. I'm assuming we're having a meeting, even though in September. Is there enough to discuss?
Isn't the nomination from your own LAFCO?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so it
Yeah.
would be someone here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then whomever gets nominated by their LAFCO that has an interest, then when you have the caucus, which is called the Northern Caucus, any candidate that's running speaks, you're able to ask questions, and then you vote.
Do you have an interest?
No.
I knew the answer to that.
If we did do that, then we'd want to send as many people from our LAFCO as possible, and that's usually what happens.
Yeah.
Actually, it was pretty interesting, the one I sat in on Ontario. And it was because it was very centralized for the northern region by 2 counties. And they were the representative. And I felt that we needed to get a cross-section of representation from the others. Yeah, right. But they had quite a crowd. But there were others that agreed with me, and that was my statement.
Now I understand it. How about the Annual Achievement Awards nominations? Anybody from our county that we want to
I was
nominate?
looking at, after reading, you know, the quarterly update, I was thinking, oh my gosh, going from county to county, I thought that gentleman from San Diego County should be nominated. And, but it appears he's already won it. Like all 3 that are retiring from that district.
I'm sure there's going to be some people nominated probably from our areas up here on the cannabis ordinances and stuff, because that's a lot of those guys that, like Dan and John and the rest of the board, you guys put a lot of effort into that. And that's going to be quite an achievement, you know, for somebody to actually.
Where do you think we'll be all day tomorrow? And poor Dan doesn't even get to sit with us.
But anyway, if there's anybody, I think that's more of a county supervisor thing, if you guys see anybody achievements and stuff there. Other than that, I don't know. I'm sure there'll be lots of other people up for nominations as well. The other 2 items, I guess, are just reports, quarterly report and the legislative update. Do you have any more to add on those?
I don't have anything to add other than what's in here.
Okay.
I'd just like to say I'm anxious to read the Little Hoover Commission report, the update when it comes out, and they're expecting it around August 24th. But that should be really interesting.
Well, maybe that'll be provided to us at the September meeting. Okay, let's move on to information report items. Number 13, status of applications, future projects, MSR SOI updates.
So nothing new on the City of Ukiah detachment. The Fort Bragg Rural Fire Protection District, I am happy to report, is completely done.
Yay!
SHN did do the revisions to the map at no extra charge, so
Great.
Big thank you to them for that. For future projects, we have had some correspondence with the Anderson Valley CSD regarding their activation of latent powers for to provide water and sewer services, and that one they're anticipating submitting maybe in the next 2 to 3 months. I did meet with Millview County Water District General Manager and SHN engineers on July 31st to discuss the Millview application, which will include the Nichols annexation, which is noted in number 3. I have asked them to do a pre-application, so that is pending and expected sometime later this month. Nothing new on the other 2 that are noted here. And then as far as the MSR and SOI updates, we will likely have elk to bring forward for the next workshop at the next meeting. We are also working on the City of Willits, and we have started the Brook Trails CSD MSR and SOI update. Where, as I noted earlier, we are working with the 3 northern fire districts to try to work out some of those sphere of influence holes along the 101 corridor. And so I'm not sure when that will be coming forward. We are reaching out to each of the fire districts, but also acknowledging that this is peak fire season. So if we aren't able to reach them, we're going to try to hold off until October to try to pester them some more. And so we're moving forward on some of the other ones in that delay.
So I notice on your updates that there's nothing coming to us in September, other than the elk, you're saying?
Elk, and then if we can get anything from the PRC, Long Valley and Leggett. Long Valley and Leggett Valley are both drafted and ready. We just wanted to work out those holes beforehand, and we're still trying to get information from the remaining fire districts.
The question is, do we have enough for a September meeting, or do we want to just skip it?
We may be able to, it depends how, we might be able to bring Fort Bragg forward as a public hearing. It depends on how quickly the city can turn around some information requests. Maybe we could make that call or discuss that in a week or two.
Okay.
Oh, we need to get the notice.
I know it was brought up in the past month or so. You didn't think you might have enough for September, but, and then we're delaying it a week because of Labor Day. Anyway, just something to pencil in. We may or may not have a meeting. Okay, let's move to item 14, correspondence. Mendel Lake changed their name to Community First Credit Union. And we got our certificate of coverage. That's for insurance. We're covered. We can say something now.
And I have the information here for the dedication in Fort Bragg for Jerry Malo. There's several events happening. If anyone would like to see that, it's here.
When is that happening again?
August 26th.
Okay. Well, we definitely want to support that. You got any other correspondence?
Oh, I'm sorry. No,
That's all right.
I was already on executive committee. I'm wondering why we didn't cover something on this other agenda, but it's on executive committee meeting.
How
Sorry.
about executive officer report? I know, I was a little
Second time you
confused when
jumped
I got
ahead.
those too.
Oh, dear.
That's the second time you jumped ahead.
I know.
Yes. That meeting started 5 minutes ago. So.
Okay, executive officer report.
I don't have anything other than as a reminder that it is scheduled for September 11th next month.
Okay. Committee reports. I think we've talked about the PMP committee. Executive committee did
Meets
meet.
now, yeah.
We're meeting after this meeting. Talk about a few things. Did you receive an agenda? The rest of you receive an agenda on the executive committee? What we're going to be
I
talking
sent
about?
it out Thursday, I believe, and it's on the website.
And it looks like Angela's not here for the Upper Russian River Water Agency update. Do you have anything to add on that?
I just would like to add, I guess, that I have a meeting with Russian River Flood Control Manager Tamra Alanese for after the meeting next month. So she's going to give me an update at that time.
Okay.
And I just have one thing, Chair Ward.
Yep.
Joe Tate came by the office. He is the new general manager for the sanitation district. So he came by and introduced himself, and I said I would make note. I'm sure probably everyone knows already, but
We'll cross our fingers that
he's working to
sanitation
catch
and
up.
Kaya get together and work out their differences. That would be nice. Carrie?
I would just like to offer one other issue, and that has information on it, the relicensing of the PG&E hydropower project in Potter Valley, and that process has begun. So it's very specific how the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, how they go through that. Right now we're in the PG&E has filed the PAD, the pre-application document, listing a lot of information other entities have as well with all the studies. And the final, that was the verbal comment. There was a scoping session held here in Ukiah. And then the written comment was due by last Friday. But when we think about ourselves as a LAFCO, there are opinions that the dams be decommissioned, and they're asking for that. That would make a huge difference in the water supply and security for everyone in the Russian River watershed within Mendocino County, and it does impact as well any of the cities or private entities that depend on project water above the Dry Creek confluence. The dollar amount for agriculture in Mendocino County, I believe, is around $740 million in production here in Mendocino County, which is a huge revenue for the county of Mendocino and the cities. In fact, the entire county, to see maybe that if their dams are gone. There has been a study that has shown, and it was by the city of Ukiah, that 3 out of 5 years, Lake Mendocino, even as a 1-year lake, would not fill up. But it's a very big deal, and when we look at our MSRs and each one of the water districts, and it could impact the city, this is huge. So hopefully everyone will stay tuned. And the last relicensing started in the early 70s and completed in 2004. So maybe some of you young'uns will still be around. I may not be. But anyway, it is a very big deal. So.
Quick question on that. Are we on the comment list, Mendocino LAFCO?
I didn't even think about that.
Why don't, that should be the approach. Then we would have the right of review and comment.
Okay, and I'll find out about, you know, how that works. We're registered because we commented on the pad as well as verbally at the scoping session, and the County Board of Supervisors gave me approval to submit written comments by the deadline of last Friday, but I had to work with other entities that were submitting them. So we'll find out. I don't think there's a deadline. I think you can get in there. But what a great idea. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Carrie, for all your support on the water and keeping up with it. I appreciate it. Again, you do an excellent job. Any other last-minute final comments? Then we'll adjourn. Executive committee will reconvene, not reconvene, but where are we going to meet? Room D?
B.
B?
So we're over this